Discussed about monohybrid cross. I showed it with Punnett square or checkerboard. What exactly the genotypic and phenotypic ratios are. The genotypic ratio was 1:2:1. Phenotypic ratio was 3:1. What is phenotype? The external expression of characters. 3 tall, 1 dwarf. That is what is phenotypic ratio. Whereas when we are talking about genetic makeup, genotypic ratio for monohybrid cross, 1:2:1, where one of them is homozygous tall, 2 of them are heterozygous tall, and 1 is homozygous dwarf. That is what 1:2:1 depicts. So it is genetic makeup. Phenotypic is just based on external features. We are not worried about the genetic makeup. So 3:1 is the phenotypic ratio, 1:2:1 is the genotypic ratio. But now in your book they have also represented it in terms of fraction. 1 out of 4 is homozygous tall. Okay. 2 out of 4 is heterozygous tall. But if you simplify that 2 by 4, it becomes 1 by 2. That is how it is there. And 1 by 4 is homozygous dwarf. That is recessive dwarf. So these are all things that we know. Now the entire, this ratio, the genotypic ratio, you can express by this equation, quadratic equation, ax plus by the whole square. You can convert them into that. Ax plus by the whole square with capital T having half of t. Because you got capital T, small t andre, half of it is capital T, half of it is small t, isn't it? Haploid ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಅವಾಗ ಆ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. There was no concept of haploid when Mendel worked. So they have taken it as half t and capital half t, small t, half t. So the expanded expression is same way ax plus by the whole square. When you expand it, half of t, capital T, plus half of small t, the whole square. It can also be written as half of capital T plus half of small t into half of capital T plus half of small t. You can multiply it, it will be just expanded. Okay. The next one, when you multiply it, finally you get 1 by 4 capital T plus half of capital T small t plus 1 by 4 small t small t. So this is how the entire equation, the phenotypic, the genotypic ratio of monohybrid cross can be represented in the form of this quadratic equation ax plus by the whole square. This is what they have explained. They have not given it as 1:2:1. Instead they have given it as 1 out of 4 is to half is to 1 out of 4. So they have given out of the total individuals how many that is. You can also write it as 25% of tall, 50% of heterozygous tall, 25% of dwarf. So you can also write it in percentage of it. Okay, this is what is the equation. And once they have self this hybrid, the F2 hybrid, they have self-led to obtain F3 generation. F4 generation is F3 self-pollination. Okay, so that is how. What they had done is when dwarf F2 generated, dwarf in F3 and F4. If you take dwarf, it is always going to be homozygous. Okay, the recessive character is always expressed when they are in homozygous condition, whereas dominant character is expressed both in homozygous and heterozygous conditions. So you should understand about that. And hence concluded dwarf is homozygous PP. See, when he self-pollinated F2 and F2, he obtained only dwarf generation in F3 and F4. So he came to the conclusion that F2 generation should be dwarf. So because only dwarf and dwarf, they can produce 100% dwarfs. Okay, so that is what it is. Now this resulted in him identifying the test cross. I told you about back cross and test cross in the previous class. F1 generation multiplied with any parent. It can be homozygous, dominant, or homozygous recessive, we call it as back cross. Test cross is F1 generation or higher, any parent to be identified. If it is crossed with recessive parent, only recessive parent, we call it as test cross. Test cross is utilized to find out the type of F1 generation or F2 generation, whether it is hybrid tall or pure tall. Just assume I have given both of them as an example. So determining genotype of F2 individual, that is F1 product, that is F2 individual by test cross. If tall in F2 is homozygous, that is capital T, what will be the result when you cross it with a recessive parent? I am doing a test cross for two conditions, homozygous tall, heterozygous tall. In homozygous tall, whenever I cross it with recessive parent, I am going to get 100% tall. And if you look at it as 100% hybrid tall. So what does it indicate? Whenever an unknown parent you cross with recessive parent and you get 100% tall or 100% dwarf, what can you come to a conclusion about F1 or F2? It is homozygous tall or homozygous dwarf. So that is how you can conclude. If you are going to get 50% tall, 50% dwarf, then you can come to a conclusion that the F1 generation or the unknown parent is heterozygous tall, capital T, small t. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಎರಡು ಸೇರಿದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಕ್ರಾಸ್. Back cross ಅಲ್ಲ, it should also have dominant parent. If they don't have a dominant parent, recessive parent ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ it's a test cross for homozygous tall, test cross for heterozygous tall. In test cross for heterozygous tall, you get 50% tall, 50% dwarf. We have taken an example. Heterozygous tall is crossed with recessive parent. Test cross andre you always cross the parent with recessive parent. Okay. So these are the gametes that are formed. Of these gametes formed, you find that 50% of them are hybrid tall, 50% of them are dwarf. There is no hybrid dwarf. There is only recessive dwarf. 50% tall, 50% dwarf. What does this statement? If you get such ratio, the unknown parent is heterozygous in nature. That is how you can come to conclusion using test cross. How do we do test cross? By using a recessive parent. Okay. So using a recessive parent, we do test cross. What is back cross? If it is any parent, dominant or recessive, we call it as back cross. All test crosses are back crosses, but all back crosses are not test cross. Okay. So remember about that. Now you can solve this at home. Capital WW is violet, small ww is white. Okay. Using this, they found out. See, how did I come to know that the tall is hybrid tall genotype? For that, these are the characters that we have. Now, Mendel, after observing this monohybrid cross, he came out with some of the laws of inheritance. The laws of inheritance, after doing monohybrid cross, he came across two of them. One of them is law of dominance, another is law of segregation. So you should understand, after monohybrid cross, Mendel was able to analyze and summarize his results in the laws of inheritance, where he put two laws, law of dominance and law of segregation. There is also law of unit factor. One factor, one character. That we'll discuss later on. See, the law of dominance, it is characterized by the presence of factor. There was no term gene. ಈಗ ಅದನ್ನ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಂದು ಜೀನ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. The law of dominance, characters are controlled by discrete units called factors. Today, what do we call that factors as? Genes. Second aspect is factors occurs in pairs. It can be capital T or capital T small t or small t small t. ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಜೋಡಿಯಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. They occur in pairs. Remember about that. In dissimilar pairs, capital T and small t, example, the character which is expressed by the factor is dominant, and the character dissimilar parent which is not expressed is recessive. Capital T, small t, the tallness is exhibited. So the character which is exhibited is dominant, tallness is dominant. but they also have a factor for dwarfness which is not expressed. So we call that as recessive. Okay. So the recessive factors are generally expressed in the F2 generation. In F1 generation you get hybrid generations. Okay. So this is what you have to remember about this. Of these two factors pair, one which dominates is the dominant factor and the other which is not exhibited is termed as recessive factor. That is about law of dominance. One is all the characters are controlled by discrete units called as factors. Factors occurs in pairs. Then in dissimilar pair, one member of the pair is exhibited or expressed, which we call it as dominant, and the other is suppressed, which we call it as recessive. These are the laws of dominance. 2 marks kotre 3 point barivekagutte. Okay. The law of segregation. Alleles are a pair of genes. We call it as alleles. So they might be present in more than one form. The capital T is for tallness, small t is for dwarfness. ಒಂದೇ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಎರಡು ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸಗಳಿದೆ, ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. Alleles are a pair of contrasting factors for a single character. Length of an individual, it can be tall or dwarf. Okay. So alleles do not show blending. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಟಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಟಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬೆರಕೆ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಇಂಟರ್ಮೀಡಿಯೇಟ್ ಟಾಲ್ ಸಿಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆರಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಪರೇಟೆಡ್ separately. Purity of gametes ಅಂತಾನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Law of segregation is also called as purity of gametes. ಮೆಂಡಲ್ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಹ್ಯಾಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಮಿಯೋಸಿಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅವರಿಗೆ. That the diploid parent cell, when they are forming gametes, they form haploid and ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. But he came to the same conclusion. Okay. So alleles do not show blending when they are together, and both characters are recovered or shown during F2 generation. So law of segregation majorly deals with alleles which do not show blending. Blending are mix agala. Okay. And they are, both of them are expressed. The alleles, both the alleles are expressed in F2 generation. That is dominant as well as the recessive factor is expressed only in F2 generation. Remember about that. Even though two alleles during gamete formation, the factor or alleles of a pair segregate from one another so that gametes have only one factor. ನಾನು ಈ ಸರ್ಕಲ್ ಹಾಕಿರೋದೆಲ್ಲ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್, ಎಲ್ಲೂ ನಾನು ಜೋಡಿಯಾಗಿ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಹ್ಯಾಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಇದು. ಸೊ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಅಲೀಲು ಜೋಡಿಯಾಗಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅಲೀಲಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಪೇರ್. ವೆನ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಸಪರೇಟ್. ದಿಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಸಪರೇಟ್ಸ್, ದಿಸ್ ಪೇರ್ ಸಪರೇಟ್ಸ್, and gamete has only one factor, whereas individual has two factors. A pair name antivi, allele antivi. Contrasting idre allele. Okay. So ee tara gametes ella circle usually hakirtini, avu separate agakare separate agirutte, they divide equally. Okay. So segregate from one another so that gametes have only one factor. ಈಗ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಅಲೀಲ್ pair of factors, they separate out and each gamete has only one factor. ಅದು ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಇದು ನಾವು ಮಿಯೋಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ನಾವು ಅಡ್ವಾನ್ಸ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೈಟಾಲಜಿ, ಇಟ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಸ್ ಅಸ್ ಟು ನೋ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಡಾಟರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಓಕೆ. ಬಟ್ ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮಿಯೋಸಿಸ್ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಈ ವೆಂಟ್ ಬೈ ದಿಸ್ law of segregation we utilize it. Okay. Homozygous ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವೇನು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು, ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಟಿ ಅಂದರೆ ದೇ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಒನ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್. ಹೆಟ್ರೋಜೈಗಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಟಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಟಿ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ ದೇ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಟೂ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್, ಒನ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಟಿ, ಅನದರ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಟಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಹೆಟ್ರೋಜೈಗಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒನ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಟಿ, ಅನದರ್ ಇಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಟಿ. ಅದೇ ಹೋಮೋಜೈಗಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದೇ ವೆರೈಟಿ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಟಿ ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಟಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನೀವು ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. This is what is one aspect about it. Now these are all the general monohybrid cross, but there is a deviation from Mendelian principles. Mendelian monohybrid cross in the deviation ಇದೆ, ಅದು incomplete dominance ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. This was noticed in a plant, snapdragon plant. Name of the plant is snapdragon. Scientific name is Antirrhinum majus. Okay, Antirrhinum majus. I just given the generic name Antirrhinum. Incomplete dominance last examination of 2019. ಬರೀ ಇಷ್ಟು ಬರೆದಿರೋ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಸಿ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಇದೆ. ನಾವು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ವಿ ವೇ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ದಿ 4 o'clock ಪ್ಲಾನ್, ಮಿರಾಬಿಲಸ್ ಜಾಲಪ 4 o'clock ಪ್ಲಾನ್. ಸಂಜೆ ಹೂವು ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಆ ಗಿಡನ, ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬ್ಲೂಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ದಿ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಲುಕ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಪೆಪ್ಪರ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಸೀ ದಿ ಫ್ರೂಟ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ 4 o'clock ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. The same character, incomplete dominance. Usually dominance is complete. Normal Mendelian cross alli dominance is complete. But in case of antirrhinum majors or snapdragon plant, the dominance is incomplete. Berke agate, blending of characters. Okay, so they have taken parents, red flower and white flower. The gametes are sickle. They separate, you know that when they are forming gametes, only one factor will be there, capital R, small r. So the F1 generation will be capital R, small r, that is heterozygous red you expect, isn't it? Heterozygous tall is dominant character, heterozygous red, but adagalla. Instead what happens there, in F1 generation it is pink, neither red nor white, but a blend of both. So it is pink. Now F2 generation, if you self, F2 generation is F1 into F1. Selfing F1 generation, you get this gametes. Capital R, small r, even in a variety gametes. And using this Punnett square, you can also use checkerboard. I am more comfortable with checkerboard than Punnett square, but this time I wrote the Punnett square. See who gametes, R and R, gamete R and capital R and small r. When you cross them, you are going to get 2 of them are pink. If monohybrid cross agide, Mendelian principles follow agidre, iveredu red agirbeku, heterozygous ಏನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು red, but ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಇವು pink ಆಗಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ capital R red ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ, small r white ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. So in this phenotypic ratio of Mendelian monohybrid cross, what is the phenotypic ratio? 3:1. 3:1. But ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ 1:2:1. That is 1 is red based on external characters. 1 is red, 2 is pink, 1 is white. And this phenotypic ratio matches with genotypic ratio. Genetic makeup alli 1:2:1. Mendelian monohybrid cross genotypic ratio same. But ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಆಗೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ phenotypic ratio Mendelian principles follow ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ 3:1. But here it is going to be, in incomplete dominance it is going to be 1:2:1. So this is what you have to explain whenever you are writing for 5 marks answer regarding incomplete dominance. This time they have asked it, a surprise question it was, but they asked it not so much frequently, so you should get prepared for that.